Coming 2025, we welcome you. Special coverage here on SNY. The Mets are going to introduce Juan Soto out at Citi Field. Gary Apple, our SNY MLB insider, Andy Martino inside our studios, going to get you out to the ballpark just a little bit. We're going to hear from Juan Soto, from Steve Cohen, David Stearns, Carlos Mendoza. We hope to hear from Gary Cohen, Scott Boras, the agent, going to be there as well. So a lot to get to. Steve Gelb's going to join us as well. So let's begin here, Andy. It's coming in 2025, around the corner. What about the significance of this signing and of this day? How do you categorize it?
Gary, I don't think we can possibly overstate the significance of this day. The New York Mets have been in business since 1962. They're about to enter their 64th season, and never have they had a moment like the one that we are about to witness. Obviously, a championship is the end goal for any sports franchise, and multiple championships. But what the Mets are experiencing today is no less than a reshuffling, to use a Soto-relevant term, of the New York baseball dynamic. I cover the Mets and the Yankees. The Mets, since their inception, much to the chagrin of much of the fan base, I think, has sometimes been regarded as the little brother in this town. That is impossible from this day forward. They outbid the Yankees. They were more appealing to this player, to this superstar player, than the Yankees were. And no longer are the Yankees just going to be able to flex that financial muscle and win these kinds of negotiations against the Mets. This is a reordering of the New York baseball power structure, nothing less. And a day for not just the Mets, but their fans to be able to puff out their chests and be proud of.
What you're saying is there's a new sheriff in town, and he's been here for a few years now.
That's right.
And it's beginning to show dividends and reap rewards here. So they agreed to the deal on Sunday, 15 years, 765 CEO, and gave a lot of love to his wife, Alex,
yep.
And rightly so, because one of the things we heard from Juan Soto over and over and over again was the love they showed towards not just Juan, but his family.
Yeah.
And we knew going into this was a big thing, but really to hear it from Juan right there, it was very clear how important that was.
Yeah, so the big question on Sunday night, Gary, after the decision came down was, why did he pick the Mets? It wasn't that big of a financial difference at the end of the day, and he did enjoy being a Yankee. There's no question about that. So digging into that a little more, and even frankly, Mets people were like, so why did he pick us? Why did we win this thing? And as I started to do some reporting on that, these are the things that Soto just said out loud were the exact kind of things that I was hearing, and then I think was sort of widely reported that things like in the process, I mentioned at the top of the show that the Mets under Alex Cohen have created a general reputation for being family friendly. But in this process, the Yankees have policies that they didn't violate for Aaron Judge or for anybody else, so they weren't going to feel that they were able to change for Soto. For example, do you buy a player a suite? With the Yankees, the player buys his own suite. The Mets are willing to be more flexible with things like that. Field passes, clubhouse access for kids. These things do not make or break a nearly $800 million deal.
Right.
But I'm telling you, this is a human being that's sitting up there, regardless of how much he's worth, and these things mean a lot to him. He's close with his family. I was starting to get into this a little bit when they took the podium, but what Soto was known to do for the Yankees was show up to the ballpark, put his AirPods in, work hard, play hard, hit like a future Hall of Famer, go home where he lives with his mom in upstate New York, just north of the city. And he isn't known to go out. He isn't known to drink or smoke or party or anything like that. He's a real quiet kind of family guy. So making his family feel good was paramount here.
And speaking about family, there is a portion of the family and that smiled, number 22. That was a big thing. He wanted number 22 to continue, and he is going to wear that number with the Mets. He also said, and I thought it was interesting, we both sort of commented on it at the time. He talked about the lineup and that there needs to be a little bit more done there. And that was something he was concerned about, right, during these negotiations, finding that guy to hit behind him, protect him in the lineup.
It was unusually pointed and specific for a celebratory day like this.
Yes.
That's why it got both our attention. I'll give you a little backstory to that, like you mentioned, Gary. So the Mets, David Stearns and Steve Cohen flew to Florida to meet with Soto last Friday, before the weekend where this all came to a head. And Soto, they spent about 2 hours with him, and Soto spent a lot of time talking to Stearns and Cohen about how he was worried that there wouldn't be enough protection for him in the lineup. So clearly, this is something that's still on his mind, is please continue to build out this offense.
All right, speaking about Juan as well, back to you just a little bit, Steve. A couple of things jumped out at me from that discussion right there. One of them being, he said, Juan Soto, that it was a stressful process. He said, anytime you're talking about 15 years, a lot to think of there. But the thing that really changed his view on what he was going to do and not stay across town was the fact that Steve Cohen sold him. And again, he talked about family, and that was a big thing. But Steve, I think, really sold him on the ability to try and win not just one championship, and it's been a long time since the Mets have won one, but over this long course of this contract to win numerous championships. Andy, how much do you think that played into this?
Hey, look, this is a very ambitious owner, and obviously under him and Alex, a very ambitious franchise. So there's no real limit to how the enthusiasm can grow under that kind of pitch. And I know that it worked for Max Scherzer. And remember, I know that didn't work out quite the way it was supposed to, but that was such a huge get at the time, kind of the first statement. And that was the same kind of thing, was selling a star player, a future Hall of Famer, on a vision of where this is going. Now it's a little bit easier to make that sales pitch after the Mets went to the NLCS last year.
Sure.
And it's good that they're not tamping it up too much. Like, you don't want to do a LeBron James and say not one, not two, not three, and create all that pressure on yourself. But at the same time, the Mets are not hiding the fact that they do have those kinds of ambitions to be as iconic and successful a baseball franchise as the Dodgers, the Yankees, what have you. The Mets want to be right up there, and I'm sure that's what they sold Soto on, and Steve Cohen's a good salesman.
And he spoke about that from day one, right? His introductory press conference when he bought the Mets, and now it's beginning to come to fruition, the vision that he had and is going to try and move forward with here. He was asked, Steve asked him about playing with crosstown with Aaron Judge, and he talked about just the incredible player, and the numbers would speak to what a terrific player Judge is, one of the most prolific power hitters the game has ever seen, and then talked about Francisco Lindor. What about that combination and how they can work in concerts?
Well, it's gonna work like it worked with Soto and Judge. Obviously, you have in Lindor and Judge, two of the top players in the game. I think everyone would agree that Judge is on a level, like you just said, Gary, that's extraordinary, but Lindor was extraordinary last year too. And I think almost as importantly, from a clubhouse standpoint, they're going to work in tandem with each other, because Lindor is that vocal leader and Soto is that quieter, hard worker, just like it was with him and Judge.
All right, let's go. Thank you so much, and David as well. He did, and I think that was important right there, that last question about the ability to add in every area of the ball club, right? Because that's something that I think, this is a great day. This is a seminal day in the organization's history, the introduction of Juan Soto, Hall of Fame talent, 7 years in the big leagues, been All-Star 4 times, all the things that he's accomplished. You know, the numbers that put him up there with guys like Ted Williams over the first portion of his career. But there's more to do here, and I think David Stearns knows that. Let's go back out to the ballpark right now. Steve, that on the orange tie. Andy, you did not get the memo, but that's something we can work on.
Andy looks pretty good anyway.
Very handsome. I do want to follow up on what the guys were speaking about right there. The fact that Juan Soto's at-bats, aside from the numbers, they are really a thing of beauty to watch, because he's such a student of the game, understands the strike zone the way he does, and they are, Andy, extremely entertaining.
Gary summarized, I think, all aspects of Soto's game very well, and having had the opportunity to have seen him so many dozens of times from the press box over the past year, the quality of the bats is better than you could have ever expected, even watching him occasionally with other teams when you see it day to day. The defense, the base running that Gary also mentioned, those are what they are, and they're probably a little bit under expectation when you see them. But the at-bat is Barry Bonds, Hall of Fame level, and that's why he's being compared to people like Bonds, Ted Williams, etc. Aaron Boone used to use a great word to describe these at-bats last year. He said they were like theater, and they really were, because it's not just the eye, the selectivity, but it's the shuffle that we all know. It's shaking his head at the umpire, because he actually has a better eye for the strike zone than a lot of the umpires do. It's one of the best we've ever seen in terms of judgment of balls and strikes. So he'll shake his head, he'll look at the pitcher. One time at Yankee Stadium midsummer, I decided I wanted to see, after Boone talked about the theater, I wanted to see this from the ground level. The press box is obviously a little bit of a quieter environment, so I took the elevator down at Yankee Stadium to the concourse, was standing behind the seats that are behind the plate, and was watching the crowd invested in every pitch. And he holds them in the palm of his hand from an entertainment standpoint better than any other player. He shakes his head, they're booing the umpire. He shuffles, the fans are cheering. So there's a lot there just to enjoy on that level. This is an entertainment product, and we are seeing an extraordinarily entertaining hitter in addition to a skilled one.
Well, I think you hit it on the head right there. Listen, 15 years we're going to see him with the Mets, if all goes according to plan here. And there is an entertainment value that goes into the game, and putting fans in the seats out at Citi Field. He's going to be a big part of that as they move forward. Certainly winning is a big part of that, but he is a highly entertaining player to watch.
He's someone who you put it all aside for his at-bats,
Yes.
you buy a ticket to see all those things. And by the way, that skill set, the good eye, that ages better than any other skill set. If you sign a player where it's about his legs or his speed or a lot of other physical attributes, it's the eye that you can take deeper into your 30s than most other skills.
Juan Soto comes up so many times at the ballpark. People and fans have their phones in their hands.
Yeah, that's true.
The phone goes down when Juan Soto comes up because you don't want to miss the theater of the at-bat. Let's finish on this, Andy. Where do the Mets go now? We're December the 12th?
Yeah.
We'll be down in Florida about 2 months from now. What's going to happen between now and then?
They know they need more pitching.
Okay.
They're looking, the way David Stearns looks at this is we need quality innings and leverage innings. So I would expect them to add at least one more starter on a major league deal, whether that's via trade or free agency. They're still talking to Sean Manaea, although unfortunately for the Mets, the huge deal that Max Fried got from the Yankees will probably make it a little bit harder to sign Sean Manaea because the market for pitching is exceeding expectations, but they're still talking to Manaea. There's trade targets still out there after Garrett Crochet went to the Red Sox, whether it's Luis Castillo or Jordan Montgomery, who you brought up in the newsroom. The Mets are investigating all fronts of how to add pitching. And, oh, by the way, they need a first baseman. I see Christian Walker as a fit. I see Carlos Santana as a fit. And Pete Alonso, of course, is also a free agent.
All right. And so that is going to wrap up our special coverage here on what was and continues to be a monumental stretch here in New York Mets history. But the Mets again introduced Juan Soto. Great to see him in that number 22 Mets jersey. He's going to be here for a long time, folks, and I think we're all very excited about that. Coming up following a break, Evan and Tiki, Baseball Night in New York continues the coverage tonight at 6 o'clock. For Andy Martino, I'm Gary Apple. We thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon. So long.